and of course the other members of the delegation with the Mayor Jordan Hill Lewis making their way into the room. We are located in the boardroom of the Muslim Judicial Council, and it's going to be quite a full house. As I mentioned, various stakeholders joining us here, and inshallah very shortly the MC Sheikh Zaid Dante, who is the Secretary General of the MJC, he will be getting underway with the facilitation of this discussion, inshallah. It's not meant to be a very long program. Hopefully by 12 o'clock we will be concluded. But of course, this is to put things on the table and put things into perspective. And the after, inshallah, we'll see what results come from that and how those matters get taken forward within the various stakeholders we've seen here, how they champion their part of in this process, inshallah. But of course, also, as we've mentioned, the mayor has been seated, Sheikh Rifan has been seated. There are one or two other places. We're still waiting for the General Sekhlani Masimola to join us. He will be seated, inshallah, very soon. And we are waiting just for one or two other people to join us at the table. And we will, of course, then be proceeding with the discussion here. As mentioned, the program as we have it here, we'll have in the opening dua being rendered. We'll have the welcome by Sheikh Irfan Abrams, the President of the Muslim Judicial Council. Sheikh Riyad Fatah, Second Deputy, will then do an opening address. And then an interfaith address by Bishop Templeton, another one by Betty Bear, and the Raja family representative, Muhammad Razik Raja, will be giving an address. Then a reading of a memorandum by Mona Abdul Khalik Ali, the First Deputy President of the Muslim Judicial Council, and Sheikh Abdul Rahman Alexander will be making an address as well. And then also some input from the Bangladeshi community. I don't have a representative listed here, but we do understand that there will be some input from the foreign national community who have also been targeted in most recent times. And it's important that we hear from them and their challenges as this affects them as well. And then, of course, also Mr. Khalif Lunat, concluding remarks will be rendered by Mawlana Abdul Khalik Ali, the First Deputy President of the Muslim Judicial Council. And then in the last part of the program, we will have some questions, some Q&A between the media and the various stakeholders. But of course, more than anything, it's a reading of a memorandum. It is a call to action by the various community structures to the leadership within the Western Cape and those who have the ability to influence and bring some kind of change to what we are seeing on the ground. Well, we're just a minute away from beginning with our discussion here, and just one or two seats still left open. Those will be filled soon, inshallah. And then we'll get underway. But of course, I think the Cape community was shocked by the recent, slaying of the late Al-Marhum Halil Parker, and it just kind of opened up a wound for the community that constantly has been opened as a result of continued attacks against the community, and people constantly sharing the same views that people no longer feel safe within the Western Cape. We know about the high crime rates, we know about the theft, we know about kidnappings, human trafficking. We see every day young girls being kidnapped, women who have gone missing, children, and the fears that parents have sending their children to schools, not knowing what the reality of the life of the outside will be outside of the very school that the children attend. And so these concerns are things that are today part of the reason why we're sitting here. That's part of the reason why we are having this engagement, and it is very much a point of taking a stand and saying that this is enough is enough, and the community and civil society in some way, manner, shape or form taking back power and trying to make an impact indeed. Well, just one or two more, as I mentioned, guests that will be joining us before we get underway with the proceedings. I did mention that there are other media here as well from the television fraternity, and then we also have, I would imagine, print media here as well. We're also streaming this live on social media, so if you have access to YouTube or Facebook, you're able to check out the proceedings there. We'll be streaming right up until the conclusion of our program, and those videos will remain up there on YouTube and Facebook. If you're not able to go to the Facebook page or YouTube page right now, you're welcome to return to them whenever you have an opportunity, and inshallah those videos, as I mentioned, will remain up there. If you just tuned in, we're broadcasting live on 91.3 FM stereo, 89.8, 90.9, 95.8, as well as www.vocfm.co.za, coming to you from the MJC offices in Cashel Avenue, the Muslim Judicial Council's boardroom. A full house today as we are getting ready to begin with what is described as an engagement on safety and security in the Western Cape.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I want to welcome one and all. But before we actually start with the program, as is customary, I would like to request of Sheikh Abdul Rahman Alexander just to grace us with the opening dua, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Almighty God, Allah, we beseech Thee to bless this beautiful gathering here this morning, to grant us success in our noble endeavors, to bring an end to crime, the escalation of crime, and to bring about, we beseech you, Almighty God, Allah, to bring about peace and harmony in our beautiful country of South Africa. Amen.
I want to say thank you, shukran to Sheikh Abdul Rahman for that opening prayer. I want to welcome our honorable and esteemed guests. This program is a very important program. It is, we have gathered here for the purpose of highlighting a very important issue to our community, to our province. And with this, I would like to welcome the Honorable Executive Mayor of the City of Cape Town, His Excellency, Mayor Jordan Hill Lewis. I'd like to also acknowledge the Mayoral Committee Member for Safety and Security, His Excellency Alderman J.P. Smith. He's a worker in the community. I'd like to also, in absentia, or he will be late, Minister of Police, General Beckett Chele, as well as the National Commissioner, General Masemola. They are on their way to this program. So I'd like to acknowledge them here as well as all of our esteemed guests from the various security caucus here in the Western Cape. I'd like to also acknowledge and welcome members of the MPA who are here, and our various officials from the safety and security in the Western Cape, Mr. Vincent Botto, Director Petrus Roberts, Chief Rudolph Wiltshire, Acting Chief Jody Pillay, Chief Wayne LaRue, who was the Chief of the Metro Police, as well as also welcoming Bishop Templeton as well. So we have many important guests here, all protocols observed, people all gathered for one purpose, and that is to address a very important issue related to the safety and security of our province. I would like to welcome members of the media, the Honorable President of the MJC, Sheikh Irfan Abrams, his Deputy President, Maulana Abdul Khaliq Ali, as well as the Second Deputy President of the MJC, Sheikh Riyad Fattar. Our program is very brief, honorable members of the press and esteemed guests. I think for us to start immediately, I will call upon the President of the MJC, Sheikh Irfan Abrams, just to do the welcoming address.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All peace be upon you, and the mercy of God be upon you, and His blessing be upon you. All protocol observed. It gives me immense pleasure as the President of the MJC, the Imam of the Sari State community, the father of 13, and the grandfather of 31, to welcome all dignitaries and all present to the office of the MJC and to this important address. May God Almighty grant us stability in our country and protect us from all evil, and grant us a crime-free society. May all our families be guided and protected. Grant us the ability to care for the poor, the needy, and the marginalized, as well as the safety and security to those who so desperately need it. Once again, we welcome you, and we are hopeful of a fruitful outcome. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Sheikh Irfan Abrams, the President of the MJC. Sheikh himself is a community activist for many years, has been very active in safety and security of his community, hails from Sari Estate, the Imam of the Sari Estate Masjid. So we say shukran once again to Sheikh Irfan. I would like to just ask all those who will be speaking to please keep the addresses down to 4 to 5 minutes, inshallah. We have various members, very concerned members and leaders from the Interfaith community, none other than Bishop Templeton, somebody we work very closely with, and Bishop Templeton will address us for a few minutes.
Good morning. Yeah. Good morning to my colleagues, the Executive Mayor, Mr. J.P. Smith, MJC, our home, and everybody in the house. I'm Bishop Templeton, the President of South African Religious and Traditional Leaders Council. About crime in South Africa, it is not only a concern, it is a nightmare. You can't even think of what will happen to you in the next second. Ourselves and the MJC, we have been working very vocal. We have been doing peace walk march against crime. But our limitation is that we are not the law enforcement. As much as we work on the ground, as much as we work in Cape Town, across the country. And we as the community, we know the perpetrators, we know the drug lords, we know the rapists, we know the abductors and the kidnapping of our children. But people are scared to come forward and report this crime, because at the end of the day they become the target. Because believe that even if the police can say your identity is a secret, But you'll find out, how did they find out it was me who reported them? And we find out these criminals, they've got more access to the magistrates, they've got more access to the police station, even to the officials in the courts, more than we as the citizens of South Africa. We once worked in 2008 with xenophobia. We find out, no man, for these foreign nationals to be deported somewhere, they must have a case number. For them to have a case number, they must pay a certain constable. They must pay a certain official in the court. They must pay a certain lawyer to qualify for deportation to greener pastures. Let's say your America, your Canada, your France, where they think they can improve their lives. Crime in South Africa is everybody's business. But I want us, you Mulena, today to be assured that our working together with the government and the police is safe. I remember in 2008, while we were working day and night to protect the foreign nationals, I find out the intelligence are investing us now. For what? Why must we work together if we are also going to be invested for crime that we don't know? So let us make sure that our partnership is not a casual thing. It's a written, and our safety is guaranteed. We love our country. We love our women. We love our children. Not in our name. The GBV, let us say it loud. Who arrest the politicians that are involved in GBV? Who arrest the business people? When you talk about GBV as the government, to who are you referring? To the vulnerables. Because we don't have money for plea bargains. I thank you.
I would like to thank Bishop Templeton, and I want to bring, just to remind everybody listening as well, we are streaming live as well on Voice of the Cape, and this is a live broadcast as well. I'd like to also welcome members of the foreign community. As we know, many of them have been negatively impacted through crime over the last months specifically and years, and we felt it's important for us to bring them here as well, to give them an opportunity to also address some of the concerns. Issues of safety and security goes right across the spectrum of race or religion, and I think that is what we want to demonstrate here today. Our next speaker is also somebody who works very close with the Muslim Judicial Council, and we will just call upon our Honorable Reverend Berry to address the House as well. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Reverend Berry Burr. Greetings and acknowledgement to the Honourable Mayor, Alderman J.P. Smith, Sheikh Irfan, and of course all the dignitaries assembled here today, all protocols observed. Thank you so much for the opportunity to just say a few words. You know, on the 19th of August, on the 25th of August 2019, many of the people in this room gathered at Joseph Stone Auditorium. First of all, we marched together through an area that had been hit by gang violence. And when we did that, we were praying together and we were cleansing the land. It was an incredibly powerful experience. And there was no real drama in that particular area for months after that incident. We then marched into the Joseph Stone Auditorium where we proceeded to adopt the Cape Flats Interfaith Declaration. which is a declaration that was signed onto and agreed to by all the people who were present at that event. And so we, since then, have a history of doing a lot to build resilience, to build cohesion in our communities, to work together, because interfaith is all about working together. It is not something that you can do alone. One of the things that we have done that was really powerful was we, together with the City of Cape Town's disaster management, as well as the Hawks and SAPS Explosives Unit, we created a project called Safer and Healthier Places of Worship, which saw us taking faith leaders from diverse faiths and actually training them in how to recognize when you were in danger, how to understand when there was an incident, when you were under threat in a particular,
Apologies, Reverend Berry. We just want to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency the Minister of Police, General Beckett Tele, as well as the National Commissioner, General Masemola, as well as
We
our
are
Provincial
broadcasting
Commissioner
live on 90.
of SAPS. Oh, Patikile. General Patikile.
Thank you so much, and all protocols observed. Welcome to the Minister and the Generals. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here as well. We've just been speaking about the ability of interfaith cohesion to make a real difference in communities. And so what I really want to do is call on everybody here present, but most particularly the Minister, as well as our Mayor and Alderman Smith, to really work together with the interfaith community. We are here to work with you to create cohesion and community resilience, and we have a history of being able to do that, whether it was through outside zikrs, which some of our members have undertaken with the intention of creating community involvement and spiritual rallying point for our communities. We cannot underestimate the power of these relationships of friendship, because these relationships are what keep each other safe within our communities. And it is true that we are not feeling safe at the moment. On Saturday, for the first time ever, I actually had to cancel an engagement in Khayelitsha because I was informed that it would not be safe for me to go there. And that was deeply hurtful to me, and of course to the people that I was supposed to be meeting. And so we need to work together, whether it is peace marches, interfaith hikes up our glorious mountain, and also planting I know that the MJC has been very involved in things like planting food gardens, building resilience through planting food gardens. And planting food gardens and trees is literally planting peace. There is something magical when we get together to build up our communities, mindfulness trainings, cleanup campaigns, and of course the dialogues, many of which are online to accommodate our international friends and colleagues, but which enrich our communities and help us to connect to one another. We also recommitted in February this year to the Charter for Compassion, which is a central document together with the Cape Flats Interfaith Declaration. We have observed special days. Physical presence, we have held physical presence within families who've lost loved ones to crime and violence, even accompanying them through the trauma of funerals, court cases, and rebuilding their lives. We firmly believe in collaboration, cooperation, and communication, and that taking positive action together can change the paradigm of negativity and violence on the Cape Flats and surrounding areas. Visible interfaith activity is as powerful, if not more powerful, than visible policing activity. But we need to do this together. We need to be seen to be working in collaboration with each other to create a sense of restoration and spiritual balance, which has a calming effect on our communities. We are here to help you. We invite you also to help us, and together, sirs, we really can make a real difference. Thank you for your time and your ears.
I'd like to thank Reverend Berry for that beautiful presentation and address. We now call upon a representative of the Raja family, Mr. Razik Raja, just to address the House as well. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I'm just thinking Mr. Raja's not ready yet. So we're going to call upon Sheikh Abdul Rahman Alexander. Sheikh Riyad.
We're coming to you live from the offices of the MJC. Today, the topic is safety and security in the Western Cape. We have a full
بسم
house
الله
of
الرحمن
various
الرحيم الحمد
stakeholders.
لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Our honorable guests, good morning, welcome. We are honored to have you. While I say at the same time we are honored to have you, you don't see a smile on my face because it's a sad time for us in Cape Town. It's a sad time for the Western Cape. It's a sad time for the communities. We are crying, we are living in fear, and we see the statistics. While the statistics show for April to June, there's been 994 murders. There has been an increase of 0.2%. But what does 0.2% mean? 0.2% means our community has been in more hurt. 0.2% means that their fear has escalated. 0.2% means that the sadness had prevailed more. 0.2% means that there are families that are crying. Honorable Minister Beketshele, the Honorable Mayor, and all of those that are present. Allow me to say the names again because you have missed Sheikh Zaid's introduction. Minister of Police, General Beketshele Hamilton Tshele, General Hamilton Tshele, National Commissioner, General Masimola, our Honorable Mayor Gordon Hill Lewis, Alderman J.P. Smith, officials from Safety and Security in the Western Cape, Mr. Vincent Boto, Executive Director of Safety and Security, Director Petrus Roberts, Director of Operational Coordination, Chief Rudolph Wiltshire, Chief Law Enforcement, Acting Chief Jody Pillay, Acting Chief Traffic Services, Chief Wayne LaRue, Chief Metro Police, and then we've had an apology from Advocate N.A. Bell and is replaced by Advocate M. Ali, one of the Deputy Directors, our interfaith leaders, our civil societies, our community is scared. Our community is worried. Honorable Mr. Commander Petikele, it's an honor to have you in the Muslim Judicial Council. We are scared and we see the increase. And we see the complaints from our communities. Not far from here, just down the road, Belgravia Road. A young woman walks now the other day and she's attacked in the middle of Belgravia Road, resulting in an arm being dislodged from his. But this is how it happens. This is becoming the norm. We see that our statistics show that our women has gone through 1,115 rapes within this small period of April to June. The crimes against the women and the children have increased. And we ask, Where is the programs for prevention of crime? It is only obvious you're going to tell me, you can't expect me, Sheikh, to be there when the crime happens. We must have prevention programs for crime. Our communities in Mitchell's Plain, our communities in Manenberg, our communities in Hanover Park, it is happening. You know, we listened to a voice clip the other night. This woman is crying and she's shouting, please send the police, please, they are shooting here on us, send the police. What is happening to us? Where are we? We need to have prevention programs that are happening. We need your honorable selves to keep the Western Cape safe, to keep South Africa safe, to empower our neighborhood watchers, and they are doing a good job. They are doing a good job. In our areas where they operate, and we see them, they spend their nights, they spend life and limb to protect our communities. We need to look at the youth development much more seriously. We need to see where we spend our money, because the youth are our future. We need empowerment programs. We see in the news that there's 264 dockets of murder with 664 victims. We ask, how many arrests were there? How many went through the courts? What happened to that? Our honorable delegation, Cape Town, is living in fear. In fear. In the mornings when I go to mosque, I've told my president many times, Mullah Abdul Khalik, I said, when I open my garage door, in the mornings for Fajr, when I open my garage door, I don't know if somebody's waiting for me on the other side. So I'm going to say the words that our communities are using. This community of the Western Cape, and we do not make any exception whether it's Muslim or non-Muslim, whether it's white, black, colored, whatever. Gentlemen and ladies, they are gutful. This community is gutful. We stayed and kept off protest marches, violent actions that people had in mind. And we said, let us speak to the leadership. They will listen, and how honored we feel that you have come out. Because you are showing to the Muslim community and to the rest of the Western Cape, you are showing, I am interested in your welfare, in your safety and security. So we ask you, please crack the whip. Crack the whip, for you have it in your hands. We are also asking, why is the political party so silent? When it comes to voting time, you see them everywhere and you hear them on every platform. When we sit with crime, when we sit with murder, when we sit with kidnappings, when we sit with rapings, you don't hear them. They're not making a noise. Criminals, gentlemen, our honorable minister, our honorable mayor, our honorable delegation, the criminals do not fear you. They don't even fear the repercussions that come with that. They show us that they don't fear anyone. So that is why we say crack the whip. Accountability is lacking, and we need to see that. So this is a united appeal. This is a united appeal from the community of the Western Cape and by extension South Africa, because what happens in the rest of our provinces can affect us also. So it's an appeal on behalf of the Western Cape and the rest of South Africa. Please let us live in safety and security and make sure that we are protected. I thank you, everybody.
We say thank you. We say shukran kathiran to Sheikh Riyad Fattar. He's the second Deputy President of the MJC. And I think it's safe to say that Sheikh Riyad has struck all the right chords and highlighted all the issues that our community out there would have wanted him to highlight. Inshallah, our next speaker is a representative of the Raja family, none other than Brother Razik Raja.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning to each and everyone here today. Me coming out here today to have a discussion with or to speak on kidnappings was not an easy decision. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to God Almighty for granting us the ease that He has. And secondly, that seeing the security, the people that's in charge of security in our country and in the Western Cape around the table here today gives me some confidence. So I'm gonna try and be very pointed, but I've got both a good and a bad story. And just to raise something to each and every one, there's a reason why people don't talk about kidnappings, because it's that gruesome and torturous. I pay no insult to any other crime that is committed, but any other crime, it ends. Whereas a kidnapping, you really live someone's death 100 times over, as we did my dad's. And that is the reason why the traumatic and the psychological nightmare that you go through as both a victim and the victim's family gives you that psychological trauma that you need to look around. Sometimes you go into the bathroom and you look around and you think, is there a problem? So, firstly, I'd like to say to everyone here today that I need to thank the Western Cape SAPS administration, General Makshalala, Brigadier Mkabile, answered their calls at any given time. With regards to Alderman J.P. Smith and his contingent, they were available, and we appreciate that as the Raja family. What I'm about to say is meant no offense to anybody, but I think sometimes in life, for there to be progress and success, we need to see what is wrong. When we find ourselves as a family in this predicament, the world becomes very small because those that even know you distance themselves from you. And the fact of the matter is that I've said this numerous times, there's only one attorney in the country that can actually talk on kidnapping, and as he's related to us, and that's Adil Kirsten, because he lived it with us. With regards to my dad's 111 days in captivity, we saw both failure and success from the South African police. The failure we didn't like to see. The success was something that reinstated our belief system that we can do better. The fact of the matter is that when it came to us seeing that we weren't achieving what we needed to achieve in the Western Cape, we faced a very difficult crossroads as a family, because in terms of my father's kidnapping, they took the right person at the wrong time. We have had some serious other issues that I don't wish to get into today, of industrial espionage and etc., that caused a lot of financial losses. So we faced with our back against the wall that it was either a rescue, because the numbers that the media has is not the correct numbers, which is fine. But the point is, we knew we were never going to get there. And for that reason, it was something that we were demons, found ourselves in this pot. And we had to find something to give us that relief where my dad would be rescued. And there's a very big difference when you are rescued and when you are released. When you are rescued, it didn't matter if you're there for like my dad, 111 days. You have some faith in humanity. They found me. There's somebody cared. To all the others that are released, you don't have faith even in the person sitting next to you, because humanity forgot you. Now, the point in case is this: when I complained and my family complained and phoned various politicians, I ended up at the portfolio committee. And I complained there as well, and I got a call from the DNC, and the DNC introduced me to General Khan, Major General Feroz Khan, and Colonel Dawood. And what I can say to you is that I swear to you, they worked on my dad's case as if it was their own father. From our family side, we dub General Feroz Khan as Iron Man and Colonel Dawood as Hulk. We've got real life heroes. And what I want to say to everyone here today is SAPS has got the resource. It might be misplaced in certain units, but they have got the resource. And that's something that South Africa needs to know. Whilst this is something that, this is a very personal conversation as well, because you start remembering all the hoops that you had to jump through. And I do not want to be laborious, but what I do want to say is that I also want to dispel the rumors. Let's stop soft soaping things. There's been former generals from the police that have gotten onto ENCA and onto radio stations saying that families did this because of insurance. There isn't a single family in the Western Cape that had kidnapping insurance when their family member was taken. So do not dispel the nightmare of crimes with feeble debates and feeble excuses. It's got nothing to do with social media. None of the people that have been kidnapped are socialites on social media. Most of them don't even have a social media page. The point in case is, do we have the resource in South Africa to stop this? Yes, we do. We need the political will to do it. We live in a country that, whilst it was incorrect for a hair advertisement, that we have political parties rise up and march over an advertisement done by an advertising company. Somebody's tortured for 6 months, 12 months, 9 months, and where are they? We don't have the political will to resolve these things. It is not that syndicates are cleverer than our South African police or cleverer than the city police. It's not. Yes, there's compromises. There's definitely compromises. Those are things that I do not want to discuss in an open forum, that I've dealt with the respective generals and the respective people themselves. Today's goal for me here is both dangerous, but what's my goal? My goal is that another family doesn't suffer what we suffered. Because at the end of the day, imagine somebody says to you, someone died. And they repeat that to you for 111 days. You would still not understand the trauma that a family goes through when something like this happens. You know, the hostage, they call them the H&T team. The hostage negotiation team for the Western Cape, normally they say in life you give somebody 5 stars, I give them 100 stars. General Feroz Khan's team, I give 1 billion stars. The hostage negotiation team in the Western Cape said to me, you know what, Razik? They're attacking Hindus, Muslims from the Indian community. They're attacking the various foreign nationals because you're a minority. And I sat back and I looked and I said, but hold on, man. When I look at my ID, it says South Africa, not minority. So I don't see myself as a minority. Yes, the methodology works. Why? Because Hindu and Indian businessmen, or Indian businessmen as a sect, they must be busy with something funny. They must be thinking of some scam. We're not scammers. At the end of the day, when we take South Africa serious, is when we take crime serious. We have got the most beautiful country in the world. We haven't been ranked as Cape Town as the most beautiful city by default. But if we allow this to continue, then we can't call it the most beautiful city in the world. With the greatest of respect. In closing from my side, you know, as a family, you have amazing work done by SAPS. Let's forget the failures of the certain Western Cape unit that I wasn't happy with. But SAPS as a whole and the Western Cape top brass, they achieved the goal. The fact of the matter is, we can't have a national anti-kidnapping task team coming to Cape Town every time there's a kidnapping. They've got their issues to deal with as well. We need that cross-border resource upliftment. But the point that I want to make is you have this amazing work done. And somebody gets to a courtroom and somebody says, I was cutting grass at 11 o'clock at night. Now, you know the best part is, my dad comes out of captivity. He's demanded by a judge, by a magistrate, to say, oh, you need to do a photo ID parade. The media is advised you're not allowed to take photos and put these photos into the media because you will possibly influence a victim on an alleged accused. After you photo ID your perpetrators that held you captive, somebody says I was doing gardening at 11 o'clock at night. Do we have a broken system? Yes. Can the system be fixed? SAP's proved it. The NPA should prove it as well. The judiciary should prove it as well. Because if we create a platform for criminals to prosper, we shouldn't complain about the ever-increasing crime stats. I apologize if I've offended any of the units. But the fact of the matter is, seeing SAPS and the city in one room, it is already a win. I can't deal with, as a South African citizen, my mind can't comprehend different political parties when somebody's approaching me with a gun. We need the political leadership in South Africa to stop the political oratory and to sit around a damn table and do what they are supposed to do because we have elected them to protect us. We have elected them to lead us. Because the day when I see a reward offered for a bus burnt, we are having kidnappings in Cape Town for the last 6 years. I don't find that fair. At the end of the day, I do not want anybody to feel offended that I'm not referring to any other crime. I've been called to speak upon one of the worst crimes that is continuing. And can we stop it? Yes, we can. Thank you.
I would like to say thank you to Mr. Razik Raja for that address. And I think now we're just going to give just a 3-minute presentation to Brother Rahman from the Bangladeshi community, who have been very effective, as we all know, we've seen in the media. And he will just address us for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Morning, and good morning to the Honorable Minister and the Honorable Mayor and Mr. President of MJC. It's an honor for us for calling us. It's already an honor for us, like you showed that it is a matter for us also. The reason we are here is already been covered, Mr. Raja. So I don't want to get into there because I am only having 3 minutes. I'll go straight to the point because I was told to put some input. I would like to talk on behalf of the Bangladeshi community of what is happening. First of all, we are in good numbers in Cape Town. And we can proudly say that we're born with entrepreneurial ability. We're here to earn our own living. We don't take anybody's job. We start our business, we create job. Ultimately, it values to the national economy. So regardless how the other people look at us, we proudly say we are contributing to the community. From that perspective, we think it's our right to also demand our security as we run our own business in Cape Town and in South Africa as a whole. From the last 3 months alone, in Cape Town only, there's 11 kidnapped from Bangladeshi community, which is 9 reported, the other 2 is not reported. And from being personally involved in the police force, I completely agree with Mr. Raja that police force do have the ability to tackle, but they are not enough enough empowered to do it their own. When I saw that only 3 policemen are dealing with all the Western Cape's kidnapping, that is already tells you that what result can we expect. So I would request to the police minister that please make a dedicated police force who can dedicatedly work for the tackling of kidnapping and extortion alone. And I would request to the mayor to also look at from out of the box to find a way where you can, maybe from the city perspective, to have something that protect the business people at least, because we are the drive for the economy, and it's not only us that are being affected. Ultimately, it's coming to you. It's coming to everybody. Please do not look at us like we are outsider. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to say shukran to Brother Rahman for that presentation. Our Honorable Mayor has indicated that he needs to leave really soon. We want to have an opportunity for the House to engage the Mayor if he will allow us. But before we get to that, and obviously our Honorable Minister, we will be very anxious also to have a word from him, and we'll make a special request for that. But I'd like to call upon first the first Deputy President of the MJC. The collective have put together a memorandum that we will be presenting to our honourable and esteemed guests here of the government and subs. And Mal Abdul Khalik will be reading that for us, inshallah. I'll just ask my colleague to give a copy of the memorandum to all our delegates. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm not receiving any responses. Good afternoon. That sounds better, Minister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are, in actual fact, in a very somber atmosphere, keeping in mind just the report that we have heard from Mr. Raja and from the Bangladeshi community. We have a 3-page memorandum, and due to time factors, I'm not going to read every sentence and every passage that is registered here. Suffice to say that our interfaith community leadership, both Reverend Barry Burr and our President, Bishop Templeton, has spoken, and some of the other members. I am sure that you receive the message, including the message from our Deputy President, Sheikh Riyad Fattar. But let me just touch base here, the memorandum regarding safety and security in the Western Cape. This memorandum is drafted on behalf of the interfaith community, civic societies that represent many of the South African citizens residing in the Western Cape. We have come under tremendous pressure from our constituencies that not enough is being done. And hence the word of our Deputy President, onze mense sê ons is gatvol. The ever-increasing crime levels in our country is not the future we wish to leave to the generations to come after us. In fact, our image as a South African society is tarnished for what we witness. And we have a collective responsibility. We have a collective responsibility to stand up for the peace, for the well-being, for the protection, for the safety and security of every child and every woman and all the people in our community. This memorandum is being served to all government stakeholders that are responsible in keeping our society safe. We have averted mass protest and asked the community to offer us this opportunity to engage with the relevant stakeholders to find a peaceful and urgent solution. We focus on kidnapping that have been ongoing for the past 6 years and yet to date are flourishing unhindered from the various policing authorities, and we demand on behalf of the community for there to be an immediate action. We respectfully request that your relevant departments offer the interfaith community and our civic society a response within 7 days from the meeting held at the MJC's offices today, the 15th, that means on the 22nd of September. our list continue. I just want to highlight 1 to 3 things. Do we understand that the kidnapping unit of the Western Cape is under-resourced and managed daily by 3 officers? Is this the truth? What has happened to the investigations of all the kidnappings in the Western Cape over the last 6 years? Are the families just expected to move on with their lives, having been traumatized for months on end? And perhaps the NPA could respond to us in that particular regard. Do we have a solution for the kidnapping crisis in the Western Cape? You saw the painful pictures and images of this 17-year-old young girl from Hanover Park a few days ago. How traumatized the parents and the family members in that community. The city of Cape Town has the best camera system from any municipality in the country. Is there a protocol, standard operation procedure put in place when a kidnapping happened? If not, why not? Why are there so many cameras not working in the areas where people are being held captive? So there's much that we can be able to speak about. We hand you this particular document. Due to time factor, Your Excellencies, we hope that you will be able to come up even before 7 days, and you can respond to us. We are sitting here in desperation, but we have hope and faith in the masses out there. The masses in South Africa, we are saying we are ready to stand up and to take charge and ownership for our well-being. But we have an authority that must be able to do and function what is expected from them. I thank you.
Say thank you very much to Manal Abdul Khalik Ali, the First Deputy President of the MJC. We are a bit pushed for time, brothers, but we want to give everybody on the agenda, we want to give them a chance to speak. And inshallah, our next speaker is Brother Hanif Lunat. He's a community activist, somebody very active in the safety and security scene in our communities. And we just call upon him to address us for 5 minutes, inshallah.
Thank you, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, goeiemorgen. I would like to acknowledge the Honorable Minister Becky Chere, Lieutenant General Masimola, the National Head of Policing, Lieutenant General Patikile, the Commissioner of the Western Cape, Major General Beaton, the Honorable Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis, my colleague in crime fighting, who always fights with me, Alderman J.P. Smith, religious leaders, members of the public, members of the media, all protocol observed. I would like to thank the MJC and its entourage, its membership, for this exemplary putting together of an event that necessitates the security of our people. Thank you, Sheikh, and your team. I'm going to try and not be emotional. I normally get very emotional and I get out of hand when I do get emotional. General Roberts will tell you we worked together, so he knows I can become onwistelijk when I raise my concerns. But today I'm going to try and be calm, raising an important issue. Sheikh Irfan doesn't believe I can do that, but I'm going to prove to him I'm going to do that today. Even General Patekile doesn't believe I'll be very calm at what I'm going to be doing. All my colleagues around here that play an important role in ensuring the security of our people in this province. I want to raise an important issue. An issue around kidnapping, which is the latest crime that has disturbed the hearts of our people here in this province. For those who don't know, I have left this province for a reason that my fellow community person, Razik Raja, knows. I had to leave this province because my life was threatened. And I have relocated to Johannesburg for the sanity and the security of my family, which I have never mentioned, and today I'm mentioning it. It is painful to leave a place you love and to be forced out of it because of circumstances that you cannot control. I was threatened, my life was threatened. Somebody made a statement 3 weeks ago in the Sunday Argus, which we are not sure of and we don't know of, where this lady said that she was sitting in a meeting where it was mentioned that we need to assassinate Hanif Lunat. Something that came out of the blues we weren't prepared for, but confirmed my move to the area of Gauteng where I feel much safer. This meeting is not about Hanif Lunat, it's about the community at large. The vulnerable community is being held hostage. People that contribute to the fiscus of this country directly and indirectly are harmed. What are we going to be doing? I'm going to delve on the latest murder of Khalid Parker. For those that don't know, we work very closely with crime fighters, whether they be official or they be unofficial or they be in the private capacities. A trusted source, Minister, I need you to listen to this. A trusted source has brought to our notice that an arrest was made last week in connection with the murder of Khalid Parker. These individuals were then handed over to the investigating team and released the next day. And we can confirm to you today that we have been presented with evidence by this reliable, and I'm saying reliable source, that we know who the syndicate, they know who the syndicate is. But we will discuss this outside this forum. My concern as a crime fighter is, what are we doing with all the knowledge that we get about the various crimes? Are we treating our communities with contempt? So, yes, the question is, are we riding happily on the situation our communities find themselves on? Or are we really taking it seriously as the authority? The criminal justice system has failed our people. Just on the matter that I discussed that caused my departure from this province, I need to raise with you, Minister, and I'm glad the NPA is here. I have a concern that if it's not the police that's letting us down, it's the NPA letting us down. And if it's not the NPA, it's the justice system that's letting us down. We can't have this. We are law-abiding citizens in this country. We love this country. We fought for the freedom that we have today. And I sometimes say that we fought for this freedom that hasn't been delivered as yet. We're still awaiting its delivery. In the days of apartheid, we could walk freely in the streets, we could leave our front doors open. Not something that I'd like to praise. Today, with all the freedom we have to lock ourselves within the perimeters of our homes. We have to worry what happens to our kids. We have to look over our shoulders at all times. And I think that's totally unfair on those that fought a difficult time under apartheid. And to continue fighting this scourges after the demise of apartheid. So, Minister, our plea to you, our humble appeal to you, we are ready to speak to you and your team. We are ready to give you information that will shock you, that's happening within our policing and our criminal justice system. And at this point, I'd like to thank General Patikile and his team, who take our calls in the ordinary hours of the night and who deal with our matters at hand immediately. But it is not he and his team that has the problem. It's the guys at the bottom that are letting us down. So from us, we urge you and your teams at all levels, from national to provincial, to please come to the fore and assist us in eradicating the crime that's not fair on our people. Thank you.
I would like to thank Brother Hanif Lunat for that address and presentation. Clearly, Brother Hanif has deep insight into safety and security, community safety and security, and we thank him for that presentation. We've got a representative here from the Masjid al-Quds, Sheikh Abdul Rahman Alexander, that we will also just give 3 minutes, inshallah, to address us. Jazakumullah khairan.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah Almighty, most gracious, most merciful. Honorable ministers, honorable ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed, I greet you with the universal greetings of love, peace, and mercy, the greetings of the Holy Prophet Moses, the greetings of the Holy Prophet Jesus Christ, and the greetings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. And I say to you, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace of Almighty God shine upon you all here today. Thank you very much for this well-needed meeting. And the call for action stemmed from the pulpit of Masjid al-Quds, the Gatesville Mosque, but also calling for calm and for reason, and for people not to take the law in their own hands, and not to bring about vigilantism and add to lawlessness. All I need to ask the panel here today and the relevant authorities, do you think that it is nice for us to hear ugly remarks out there in our community that our beloved country has gone to the dogs? Do you think it is nice to hear that our beloved country of South Africa today is seen as worse than under the apartheid regime? This is the frustration of our communities out there. And I hope this meeting today is a positive response to the millions of cries of our law-abiding citizens and decent people of South Africa. How long are we going to wait? How many women must still become widows? How many children must still become orphans? How many businessmen and the business sector must still be kidnapped and abducted and face extortion by the criminal element? We have the power to do something. We have a good government. Don't let people continue by saying that we are a failed state. I refuse to accept that, because if we all stand up together, the government, with all the religious leaders of the country, don't take God Almighty out of the equation, then we find ourselves in the mess that we are today. And so I call upon the relevant authorities and each and every law-abiding citizen, people of every religion and persuasion, God-loving, justice-loving, and peace-loving people. Let today we make a statement here that the death of every person is not in vain. We will stand up. We will do something about this escalating crime, this rising tide of uncontrollable crime. We will do something about it. And we'll all work together as Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, and communities of every religion and every persuasion, because we are the citizens of the most beautiful country of South Africa. I thank you.
They know what is happening in the community, and even the people of our community go to where they have issues. We've got from Lavender Hill, also part of the Interfaith initiative, who was also asked to say a few words.
Good afternoon. I said good afternoon. I wanted just to thank all the ministers that are here this morning. I want to thank our bishop. I want to thank the MJC for allowing us to come here today. I come from Levendale Retreat, and I believe that they call that one of the hot spots. And ministers, I don't think that word should ever be mentioned about hot spots. It should be also be a place where our children will come and freely play and do what they have to do. I agree with all the gentlemen that says there is resources. Yes, there's a lot of resources of the policemen. In Levendale, you can see they will only come when they're shooting. They will, and the time when they get to us, then everybody's gone and somebody's killed. I've been working this weekend in Cape Town, and by my surprise, I see all the resources. On every corner, on every street, was a policeman, was a traffic officer in the Western Cape Town this weekend, due to the sevens. Now I want to raise this question to the ministers. Why is it when there is always things like that happening in Cape Town, then there's policemen all over the city? On every street, there was a traffic cop. And if crime happened in our area, they're only sending 2 police vans. And why can't the police force stay stationed in our areas and take the label of hotspots, because there shouldn't be any hotspots in our country. There shouldn't be hotspots in any place in the retreat. So my question to the ministers, why always is Cape Town protected? In our people in our area is not protected because the police only come when there's a call. And I want to raise this question, and I want to ask the minister also, because this morning I was at, say, 12:30, I saw the police in the retreat chasing some guys, and I want to thank them this morning because they caught the guys. But my question to you guys is, why is the police always protecting in the wide areas? Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Reverend Janchis. You can see the passion and the commitment of our community workers, our faith leaders. Honorable guests, our mayor has another engagement. So we want to take this opportunity now, this session, to allow the mayor to say a few words. And if possible, if time gives us an opportunity, to maybe answer 1 or 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I appreciate the kind invitation, Sheikh, and all the other Sheikhs and Mulanas who have spoken today, and our other faith leaders. It's a pleasure to join you here at your offices again, although I wish it was under better circumstances. And I want to say to Sheikh Alexander in particular, my condolences for the loss of a member of your congregation this weekend. I know that it's always difficult to lose a member of one's congregation, and so we are thinking of you, and of course the Parker family. I want to just say a word or two about some of the issues raised. I'll start with crime in general, and then come to the crime in focus here today of kidnapping and the closely linked matter of extortion. Firstly, I want everyone to know that in Cape Town, we are throwing everything we can at increasing resources for visible policing on the streets of our city and in those worst affected crime communities. We are throwing everything we can at it. We meet as a team, and I see our uniform chiefs here today. They're very welcome, and Edie Botto and Director Roberts, and of course JP. We meet on a monthly basis as a team, and that the purpose of that meeting is really simple. How can we scrape together more resources to put towards this problem? 150 new officers this year. Some really interesting and exciting technology like aerial surveillance above the city, new centralized dispatch technology, gunshot location technology in our worst gunshot areas. And we're not going to stop there. 90 new officers for the protection of our facilities, including the protection of our cameras. And I'll come to cameras in a second because that was raised by the Sheikh. And for the first time in October, we are launching 24-hour highway patrol in the city, 24 hours a day on our main arterial routes. So that if there's an incident, whether you break down with a flat tire or whether there's a criminal incident, we can have help with you in 7 or a few minutes, just a few minutes. So you have our absolute assurance and commitment that we will do everything possible. And we are working really well with our local SAPS leadership, and I want to just honor General Patakile, who's here, and the teams from the province that we work with on a daily basis. I obviously don't get involved in the operations, but the uniform chiefs, the director, let me know how well these things are working all the time. And in fact, JP has just booked some time in my diary to talk about how we can find city land to give land to the SAPs for more police stations inside the city. And you have my assurance that we'll do that. No problem. If they need land from us, they need more police stations, particularly in those areas, they will have it at the steepest discount that we can possibly achieve within the law. So we are committed to doing everything that we can. I've now, because the minister has raised this with me personally in the past, I now get a daily, every morning at about 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m., I get a daily update of the status of our cameras across the city. And it looks like that. It's a little dashboard that gets delivered to my phone every morning. And it has the detail and the address of every working and non-working camera in the entire city of Cape Town. And I can tell you from this morning's one, that 87% of our cameras today are functional. That's 788 cameras. And in fact, only 17 cameras across the entire city have been out for more than a week. That is because Director Roberts and his team are going and trying to fix these every day, every single day. And there have been some extraordinary successes from that team, by the way. There's currently a high-profile murder case in the High Court where SAPS has taken a lot of credit for capturing someone very quickly. And we don't mind. We couldn't care less about credits. It's about safety. It's about making people feel safer. But that suspect was captured in 6 minutes because the signal went out from SAPS to be on the lookout for a particular vehicle, and the vehicle was stopped by one of Chief Pillai's traffic officers in 6 minutes because of CCTV footage from a city camera. 6 minutes it took to capture that perpetrator. And that person's going to go to jail for a very long time, I'm sure. So we are working well together where these systems work. We have also said that we are prepared to assist with a focused, dedicated kidnapping and extortion task team as much as we can. We've got things like cameras and drones. We've got gunshots detectors, and we've got officers on the ground in a lot of these areas, in Khayelitsha, in Harare, in Delft. We've got our top-up officers that we're doing. I'm sure everyone is familiar with our LEAP top-up program. But we do not have signals intersection gathering technology. We don't have the legal authority to do that. We don't have intelligence gathering. We don't have the ability to intercept phone calls and emails and so on. That is what SAPS and crime intelligence have got to come to the party to do. And so we've said whatever help we can do, we will do as part of a coordinated joint city or provincial task team like the one that Mr. Raja was blessed to be able to work with in his father's case. I met that team. What an exceptional group of people. But they were mostly from Gauteng and KZN, if I'm not mistaken. They were flown in here for a few weeks to work on this case, and we're very grateful that they were here, but they've gone home now. And we need that same team located here, working with us on a daily basis to crack not just the perpetrators of individual crimes, like the thugs that took Razik's dad, but to crack the kingpins who are behind these organized criminal syndicates, and to trace the money out of the country and shut down accounts and so on. That is something that we can't do, but which we are prepared to help as part of a coordinated task team. Let me say that while there is a huge amount of anxiety, and understandably so, following Mr. Parker's murder this weekend, if you look at the crime stats that Minister Tsele released 3 weeks ago on a Friday afternoon, there is also cause for some sense of optimism, some sense of hope. Of the top 30 worst crime stations in the country, crime came down in 10 of those stations. One was a station in the far north of KZN, and the other 9 were in Cape Town, where crime is coming down. There was only 2 in Cape Town where crime went up. That was Crossroads and Philippi East. And we have since discussed together as a team what we need to do from our side to get the situation under control there and see it coming down again. So you have here a team that is absolutely dedicated to making Cape Town safer, to finding more resources within our envelope, within our resource capacity, to get more officers, more technology, more investigative capacity on the ground to help. And we really extend our hand again to the provincial, the national commissioners and the national minister to say, let's please have a dedicated task team, the likes of which worked on the Raja case here full-time in Cape Town, and let's break these criminal syndicates and bring them to justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much to His Excellency, the Executive Mayor of the City of Cape Town. Very encouraging words, but I think obviously, the people on the ground want to see, more results at the end of the day. I'd like to call upon His Excellency, the Minister of Police, General Bekechele, just to share some of his thoughts and to address the House. Thank you very much.
Is this one on?
Yes, it's on.
Okay. Now, thanks very much to the leadership. Thanks for the invite, and thanks for the ambush. I was invited to come and listen. That's what you said to me. And I have listened some snippets of the memorandum. One will be going through. There is an area that is addressed to Minister Cele, per se, and General Basimula. Seriousness of the matter is that we are here. We had a major briefing this morning about the situation of crime in Western Cape. I really don't want to talk too much except to say what you have called us here for. It will be from our side that we pursue some of the issues raised. He has raised the issue and said he wants to see us. That includes the leadership of the Interfaith, that we will be available to sit down and work on those matters. What we'll encourage is that we must work together as cluster rather than the components of the cluster, because fighting crime can be not just one segment of the cluster. If I talk about the cluster, I'm talking about police, prosecution, magistracy. You always forget one area that comes with a lot of crime in the community, and unfortunately they are lucky because they are hidden. Correctional service. There's a lot of crime that comes from that area. You don't know how much crime is planned from there. And the people are directed from there to do terrible, terrible things. We have arrested one guy here, Mayor, Deputy President, who is responsible as charged for the 19 murders in Khayelitsha and surroundings. He has appeared in court. A few days ago, was found in the correctional service with the live ammunition while he's inside prison. So it's a chain that will have to work on. Now, we would not know whether the police, whether the warders, whether the prosecution, whether who handed over the live ammunition on the guy that is inside the prison. So we wait. But another one, I'm glad, Mayor, we are here. You remember that once we had a good meeting with you and the premier, and I don't know why we had to abandon that. I don't know. I think somebody put it very well. No criminal asks your political membership when they commit crime against you. They get it later that was a member or leader of DA, leader of ANC. They get it very late. They just see the target in front of them and they act. This thing of politics continuing, nobody's going to stop that. But as elected officials, I think we need to do more. As such, I would put ourselves open to say those meetings must continue and work on the things. Some of the things could not be really raised here. It will be better on those closed meetings. I was looking. Whenever you look the crime patterns of Western Cape, there are standard stations that are there that you know they are high in crime. Unfortunately, there are no stations from affluent areas. No stations. I've said to myself, yesterday I had a very long meeting with the whole management of this province, not of the city, but mainly the city, all station commanders. I said, there are stations that I don't know because we have never picked up the dead body from the precincts of that station. Never, ever. So you don't know when they talk about this station. The station that will come in your head immediately is Nyanga, Kaelisha, which will be Michel Spade. So there are stations that you don't know their names. Because crime has become some part of allocated by circumstances in some areas and not in some areas. And as the leadership, we need to break down those barriers of having crime in these areas and no crime in some of areas. So for that to happen, I would argue to say, let's work on that, Mayor, the Premier. But I would say let's subject ourselves to this collective of Interfaith to call us together one time to say, come, since we met, what have we done? So that we have some kind of accountability going forward. And while we fight in politics and all that, but what do we do with the safety of South Africans in particular? We're dealing with the Western Cape here. You know, the national, what is this? National plan. The NTP puts it very well, that South Africans should not be told that they are safe. They should feel that they are safe. You should not be told that, by the way, now we are safe. It must be you telling officials who say, what has changed? We feel safe. And for that to happen, we'll have to work together. We are taking this serious. We will be working on some suggestion made. That is a wonderful team led by that young man, called Farouk. His cracks are not only happening here, by the way. He has done serious cracks around the country. The case of Farouz, yes. Done a serious cracks around the country, especially in Gauteng, the matter of the health official and all that. He cracked that case himself together with his team. Is a high agile team. I hear that you are crying that it needs to be enhanced in Western Cape. We have these 4 problematic provinces when it comes to crime in the Republic: your Gauteng, your KZN, your Eastern Cape, and your Western Cape. That's why today in the meeting with an Eastern Cape provincial commissioner that are working on the issues of transport problems. The buses that are short, Interscape and all that, we're working. So it will be good that we work, all of us, on from the level of the city, province, and all of us. So we will be really, Mayor, I hope on this one, will frequent these meetings and make the suggestions and all that, including working together on these camera things. I don't want to, you and me, when we come to that one, now I'll request that those things, we need to go back and report the agreed approach on those matters rather than come and argue before you, because we do have arguments on those matters. But I would not want to make those arguments your arguments. So we'll have to come back to report in a more agreed way going forward on that matter. The last one here. The resources of the South African police are not wonderful as they put them, Deputy President. In 2010, we had 195,000 police in the Republic of South Africa. In this year, 2022, we have 176,000. We're 20,000 down. We're 20,000 down. Don't ask me, I wasn't there. Though they'll ask that question from me, how did we arrive to 176? I left them 195. I came back to them 176. But I'm glad that the President and the Treasurer have agreed on correcting that situation. This year, we have 10,000 of them in the college. 10,000 recruits. Next year, we'll have 5 to 10,000 again. If there are 10,000, we'll have 20,000, which will give us 176,000, which is a 2012 number, not a 2022 number. That's that. But we have agreed that the state, somewhere they had this thing of undermining the security cluster, where to cut for education, where to cut for social development, police, the soldiers and everything. It looks like everybody agrees that that's not the path to take anymore. We're working towards that. City has a lot of resources, lot of them. Some of those resources is sitting there. They stole one of our best operators. That guy sitting there is one of our best operators. So let's integrate this. They can do us better if they are integrated. The cameras, the hot bodies. I want to just confess one sin. Somebody says he saw the vans around the city. I was asking him yesterday that when I go in the city center, every corner I turn. Yeah, I was asking him yesterday that every city, it is not South African Police Service, is a city itself, is a traffic, but every corner, if you go this, but I also go to Khayelitsha and I see nobody. So that's what I said. So somebody repeated here, just behind me. I did not see that person, but I was not with that person when I spoke to him, and I'm sure it did ring the bell to him when somebody was raising it. Coordination, cooperation, working together will give us one result: the better, safe citizens. Let's do that, but please keep on holding us accountable at all levels. Thanks.
I'd like to thank the Honourable Minister of Police, General Beketshele, for that presentation. We also like to express our gratitude to the Mayor, Jordan Hill Lewis, for making the time and extending the time with us today. It's a clear indication of his commitment to our cause, and the Mayor has just excused himself. Is JP, are you staying with us? You staying? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Before we open up the floor to questions, we're going to give the Honourable JP Smith an opportunity to also address the House. Thank you very much.
I'm not burdened with those kind of titles. I'm just JP. All right. Or PJ if you prefer. Good. What is it now? It's good afternoon already. Good afternoon, everyone. Molweni nonke. Assalamu alaikum. Marach. There are a few things that I think do need perhaps just some context. Firstly, let's start with the primary reason we are here. I think when we saw the first of these a few years ago, we hardly understood what they were. It's not something Cape Town knew. We saw them happen in Mexico, we saw them happen in South America, elsewhere. We saw them happen in Mozambique across the border, but they were not a phenomenon here. And we have now watched these grow in intensity to the point that not a week goes by now that there isn't a kidnapping, or more than one. And that, I think, is quite worrying. And so the city didn't wait for the outcry on this meeting or in the Gatesville Mosque to start acting. We have a fairly limited legislative oversight. We have no legislative oversight over SAPS. SAPS has answers to national government. So when you talk about provincial police or national police, it's all national police. There isn't a provincial police that answers to provincial government. But province does have an oversight function. So when we wanted to engage SAPS, I wrote some weeks ago to Premier Alan Winde and to Provincial Minister Regan Allen. And I said, please, can you approach SAPS in the form of the provincial commissioner, or otherwise if you engage with a national commissioner or national minister, to ask for the establishment of a proper task force. Not a statistical committee where our staff attend to have the exchange of stats, for instance, on how many extortion cases have happened, because we're not adding value in that case. We hear the stats, but we don't do anything more, for instance, at our extortion task team, as it is called, to then meaningfully contribute. The bottleneck in SAP's resources remains their problem. We do want to help, and we do have the means to help. We have the skills to help. We have recruited expertise and skills over the years, and we are keen to help. So we ask that SAPS urgently establish a fully fledged anti-kidnapping and extortion task team consisting of officials that we all second to this task force. And as this is what you see internationally, if you go to big cities elsewhere in the world, which I've had the privilege to do, how they respond to crises like this is by establishing multidisciplinary task forces that work from across different agencies, draws on the skills, information, intelligence, and resources of each of the agencies. So that request remains, and I think the Mayor has made the request in writing, and so we will see what the response to that is in due course. But we're keen to work, and we will, abide by whatever non-disclosure agreements are signed or compelled in that process. Then we did invite, because we started panicking that the trend, although we know that the expertise exists, it exists, as Razik and others have said, predominantly in Gauteng. I met the same officials while they were here. They are really impressive and knowledgeable, but that those resources are not enough to go around. Out of the 30 top kidnapping stations, 22 are in Gauteng, 7 in KZN and 1 in Mpumalanga. And so Cape Town, as bad as it is, we are not experiencing what some of the other provinces are already experiencing. But it's only a matter of time. It is rapidly deteriorating. So we mustn't fool ourselves that we are not going to feel the bite of it as bad as Gauteng is very soon. And for this reason, we called in such expertise as we could access, some of the best expertise that we know of, who specialize in kidnapping in Africa and Asia, and specifically these dynamics that we are facing here. Around Wahala payments, around bank accounts with certain potentially compromised banks in certain countries, which may be used to identify targets, and around other issues that may be making certain people more vulnerable, or causing them to be identified as the targets of kidnapping. So this is not an area of my expertise, and I won't profess to have such. This is an operational matter, but we did invite them here, and the purpose of that invitation was for them to come and tell the city what is it that we could do, what are cities elsewhere in the world doing where they are not directly empowered by law to play the key role. Because two of your recommendations here on your memorandum is asking the city why we are not doing more. I'll explain that in a moment. But we invited these experts to say to us, what is it that we can do to optimize our involvement, and in this training to then draw in the NPA, SAPS, and everybody else who was willing, so that we can share that expertise. That is something that we have tentatively scheduled for November. That's the first time that these experts seem to be available. And we will be inviting all these other agencies to participate in that and to see what we can learn from it. We must never pretend that we have all the answers. Even when you think you know a lot, you can always learn. Then, after hearing it suggested, and it's not an original idea, I have mentioned to the mayor that if there is an appetite by other agencies to collectively offer a very substantial reward, that we should consider doing so. We're not talking about the kind of small rewards that we're able to offer as the city in relation to when our infrastructure is damaged by our buses or our delivery vehicles, our roads vehicles, our solid waste vehicles are burnt, or one of our offices is attacked. Then we normally offer we offer awards somewhere between 50 or 100,000 rand, depending on whether it's authorized by the city manager or the mayor. In this case, we suggested a reward exponentially greater, to try and incite somebody to come forward with information. And those conversations, I think, behind closed doors can still happen if there is an appetite from also within the Muslim community to contribute collectively to such. Then the city will do absolutely as much as it legally can. I also did ask my office to reach out to the MJC and the Gatesville Mosque after seeing that video and hearing the sermon to have precisely this conversation. So I'm very glad that it is happening. So, as to why the city has a fairly, why we're not playing a greater role, it's not from our lack of desire to do so. Kidnapping is something that is dealt with after the fact. You have a case to investigate and your resources are investigative and crime intelligence in nature. The city traditionally doesn't have a role to play in that. It's also the opinion of many in national government or in SAPS that we in fact have no powers in that regard and shouldn't have a role to play. And this has been publicly discussed and debated. Most of you will know that. You will have seen these debates happen in the public space. We do cooperate to the full extent requested by SAPS with such investigations. So when we're asked for CCTV footage, there is a standard SOP. SAPS have absolutely no limitation on being able to gather footage from us. Our CCTV control room is open to them, and they gather footage multiple times a week on all manner of investigations and cases. We even have a system with the provincial commissioner where when we've detected an incident and no footage is gathered, he is alerted to that so that he can know that there is footage sitting that has to be used. So the city traditionally hasn't got a meaningful role. We are keen to take up a more meaningful role, and hence the request to SAPS. So, Chairperson, there is quite a lot more that was raised also in lieu of your memorandum that I would like to offer. I'm sensitive to the fact that you've got prayer time in a few minutes and don't want to intrude on that. But I think the mayor has adequately answered the issue of the cameras. The cameras do work effectively. Where they don't work, it's because the power and telecoms that they need is vandalized and stolen. This happens mostly in certain parts of the city. We this morning met with a big company where we're looking at taking more of our cameras off grid so we don't rely on Telkom and Eskom, whose infrastructure has been very significantly crippled. And we are keen to play a greater role. And I just want to say, in terms of the resources you're seeing in the CBD, for events, remember that the events organizers pay for those resources. We use overtime budget to float the additional resources. The events organizers pay for those resources. And with regards to what you're seeing in the CBD now, it's still less than in Khayelitsha, but the mayor recently rolled out that 100 extra staff as we're done in the 13 LEAP areas. So it's 1,300 in the LEAP areas, plus now another 100 in the CBD, because in the last 2 quarters, the Cape Town CBD was the worst reported crime area in the entire country. And therefore, we made an urgent intervention because that situation has deteriorated so significantly. It also speaks to staff losses within the SAPS in Cape Town Central, and that's why that intervention was made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman J.P. Smith, for that presentation. I think what we see here is a commitment from, from the Minister of Police as well as the City of Cape Town to work together effectively for the benefit of our community, and that is what we wanted to achieve. One of the things we wanted to achieve with this particular gathering here today. I think before we give, to the floor, just one more presentation. The Minister has rightfully said I've been, ambushing people all over the place. But I've been asked to give the Provincial Commissioner an opportunity to address us for a few minutes, General Patakele. Oh, he's handed over to the National Government, General Masimola. Oh, yeah, sorry. I apologize, General, for that.
Thank you very much, the Deputy President. We are aware that it is your meeting, you run it, but the way the meeting is run we have a bit of a problem. Normally, if our minister speaks, there shouldn't be somebody else speaking. Like you can't have an MMC speaking thereafter. So it should be done correctly. So otherwise, let me say we have listened the problems that you are experiencing as the South African Police Service. And indeed, myself and the Provincial Commissioner will make sure that it's unfortunate kidnapping is something that is a deed that happens and then you investigate. But with our intelligence, we'll make sure that proactively we identify those syndicates and reinforce the team that is here in the Western Cape so that there is sufficient capacity to investigate these cases. In Gauteng, we do have a team also consists of your Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg Metro Police. So from the city, we will appreciate that if there can be also police from Metro that will be dedicated, like we have in Gauteng, to form part of the city, so that we can together make sure that we work on this crime and identify those syndicates and deal with them and deal with the crime and once and for all. So that the province will be supported in that regard, and we seriously take the matters that have been raised at this meeting. We are taking them very, very serious, and we'll continuously, with your support, continuously work together and make sure that we improve the current situation that we have had is very, very unsafe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the National Commissioner, General Masimola, for that presentation. And I do apologize for the lack of protocol, General. We want to give the floor 5 minutes only. We're running out of time. 5 minutes if there's any questions they want to direct to any one of our delegates here today.
Good afternoon. I wear many hats. So some of it is maybe on the traditional, the religious forum. And then there's also one of being an activist. Let us not sugarcoat some of the things. Not far from here, in Thornton, we have a memorial site for people that have lost their lives during the years of apartheid. We've also lost a life at the mosque, at the St. Athens Mosque during the years of apartheid. Let us not sugarcoat from the one era to the new era that we have not received the democracy that we've voted for. We as the first indigenous nation, the Khoisan areas is the areas that is struggling, the Menenbergs, the Hanover Parks, the Bontewils. And when we look at the representation, it is always not as transparent as we would have liked it to be and well represented. We've come into a new South Africa. Yes, we've come into a new South Africa, and we'd like to see the fruits of it also. Thank you very much.
Anybody else for a question? Can you please identify yourself as well before you ask your question? And please limit it to questions only.
With
Just
that,
refrain from
it's time for us to cross
statements.
back to studio. Unfortunately, we will be heading in for the Waqt of Dhuhr soon, but of course, we have been live from the Muslim Judicial Council offices, handing over a memorandum regarding the safety and security in the Western Cape, and various players, including the Police Minister Bekele, in attendance here, as well as senior members of the MJC, the city, as well as province as well. Well, from myself, Mohammed Fasik Peterson, as well as Ms. Nazim Peterson, Daniel Matthews, we bid you assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and hand you back to the Salt River Studios for the Waqt of Dhuhr soon, inshallah.
And there was what is called a flying squad, there was what is called drug squad, and all those squads. I just want to know how much integration, how integrated are you in terms of these squads? Do you have those squads in nowadays? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I am from Bangladesh community. From the last few kidnapping, what I have experienced, we don't have special force here in Cape Town. Whenever we need help, we wait for the special force from Pretoria or Johannesburg, and tracking machine, grabber, we have nothing in Cape Town. So now I would like to ask, now we facing this problem, so we should also have those forces in Cape Town and the trackers and all the equipments we need. Thank you.
Okay, Minister JP, the question to you is, if you say, sir, that the forces that was extra put by the events, they paid for it. So my question to you is, what do we have to do in our communities to get that special treatment, as you know that we are very poor communities and our people don't have the resources? And to the Minister, can you look to me now, sir? My question to you, sir, is if you say you have recruited so many thousands of young people for the next police force, how do you recruit them? Because in my area, there's a lot of youngsters, even matriculants, that sit at home. And also the test that they are doing is so difficult because sometimes they don't even pass them, they failed. So I want to know, is there any other way or other form of getting to them?
We'll be taking one more question after this, and then we will close the session.
Okay. Thank you very much. I greet everybody. Yeah, my name is Same. Yeah, my question is that how long we talk everything, same thing, still now, from this democracy? It has not finishing the crime. Why? What is wrong to the government? Why don't do it once and all to make this crime finish for our society? It's also, I think that is something wrong. Instead to do the things, you just see other eyes, you see the money back this side, and then you leave everything what is supposed to do it, and then you look the money. So that I think people must have care about the people. You are electing to look after for the people, not to do your own things. Also that you need to reinforce community intelligence if you want to stop this crime for our society. If you don't do that, you must forget. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mariam from Radio 786. I just wanted to know, could you just provide us with stats of how many kidnappings occurred in the Cape Town area alone, and whether you could give the arrest that has been made in connection with those kidnappings, and whether those victims of kidnappings have come forward to discuss their ordeals? So it's 3 questions.
Minister, it would be imperative that we've been offered the President's office after this event to meet with you, myself and Razik, to inform you on certain aspects that's of importance to you. One of which is the perpetrators of the murder of Khalid Parker is known by our reliable source. They've identified them, so you need to know it, and we'd like to bring this to your knowledge.
Okay, I think, yeah, let's call it close to the questions. There are one or two questions that were directed to certain members of front, and yeah, if possible, if they could answer, we would appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Of those questions, only one is directed to the city, and that is the issue of what communities have to do to get resources. So when we have major events, there's national events legislation that compels us to have certain levels of policing present. So there's a national law, Sashria. We are obligated, in terms of the Golden Triangle meeting, the Events Coordinating Committee with SAPS, to then make an allocation to the threat level and deploy resources accordingly, especially when it's international events. For the right to host that event, you need to comply with certain standards that the events organizer sets, or that the event license holder sets. So most of that cost is in fact recovered. We use an overtime budget, and so overtime is very expensive because you're paying staff significantly more than their normal rate, and it's a staff working additional hours in addition to their normal hours. And that cost is then recovered from the events organizer. At least by the city, I can't speak for SAPS in that regard, where there are hot flare-ups like what happened in Yanga, or gang flare-ups all over the city, there we deploy resources on our own overtime. We take resources away from other areas and we redeploy them, and we deploy resources on overtime out of our own pocket. That overruns our overtime budget massively. Annually, it's nothing strange for us to spend 250, 300 million or more on overtime. Almost all of that is as a result, most of that is a result of gang violence and shooting, where our staff are then deployed for additional hours. But keep in mind, we have 15% of the policing resources that SAPS have in the city. I know that in people's minds, maybe it's like equal or so. We have 15% of the staff that SAPS have in this province. And we have significantly less powers. We are currently in the process of asking the Minister to consider expanding those powers so that we can do more to assist. And you've seen the mayors entreaties in that regard in terms of Section 99(1) of the Constitution. Thank you.
Okay. There was one question that was directed to the Minister.
I still want to argue that some of these things should be discussed out of this meeting, because when I begin to respond, it won't be nice. I want to end there. The question you raised, yes, there are people that are arrested dealing with the matter, including the family that spoke here. But one other thing, he did raise it. We are dealing with highly traumatized families, highly, and surroundings and the neighborhood. It's very difficult to deal with them in that particular area in terms of information. Sometimes they cool off and then you go and speak. The 6-year-old that was found working here. The next day, somebody was arrested in Gauteng. And you must remember, this element has got a lot of national and international element on it. It's not necessarily the localized thing. So it's important. That guy was arrested the next day in a car of 4 people. I'm not going to say the nationality of him, but was arrested there. By the time the child was working, because they've realized that they've been identified. So but when you go to the family and they say they're not prepared to talk, you can't go beyond that. Your question to say today, you really can't go beyond that. The first prize is that the child or the person is back. That's a first prize. You can work on other things. There is one thing that we'll have to talk about. When we requested 10,000 young South Africans to join the South African police. They applied. 500,000 of them applied. We wanted 10,000. 500,000 of them applied. We took 10,000. The rest is still there, not working. So is one area, if we don't deal with the question of unemployment of the young people in the country, it's going to take us very long, if it does, to deal with the crime. But we also requested, because we wanted 200 PSCs to run our laboratories. 57,000 graduates applied. They're not working, graduates. Among them, there were 6,000 PSCs. We wanted 200. So you can see this crime and all that, but the situation is so conducive for crime. They are young, they are educated, they are energetic, they want better life. So these are the things that we'll have to put politics and put ourselves together. What do we do with them? But the question of stringent, we must, because we must get the best. Unfortunately, what we didn't say here, giving statistics Western Cape today, for last 3 months, it's 3 months that we have arrested 21 members of the South African police for corruption, for themselves. We have the West and we have the best in this organization. So we need to really use a very tiny sift to try to get the best out of them. And how we share them, because you and me, we know each other, we can really come back how we do those things. But policing crime go far beyond. Is something we call environmental design. There must be light everywhere. There must be a street. There must, for instance, if you go to Khayelitsha, and if you go to COVID-19, there is place COVID-19. I don't know, Mfundisi, have you been there? I've been there in COVID-19. There is no street. There is no passage, there is no light. If anything happens and you call the police, you don't know where the police to go. So those are the things together we'll have to work to improve those situations, to improve the situation where crime could be fought. But I want to repeat, we subject ourselves in working with this body and coming back to report what we have done and seek more wisdom from this body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Reverend Bishop Templeton would like just to make an announcement, everybody, and then from there we will just close the program. Thank you.
No, just the announcement, General. Yeah, we are done, General. Yeah. Minister, you were not here when I was speaking. Thank you. My bosses are sending me WhatsApp messages while the program was on. From this House Minister, we managed to put together 2 gangs that were fighting in Hanover Park successfully. But when they call you to visit there, we were not called. And we just saw you on TV in Hanover Park. It was our initiative from these offices. Now, one more ambush, Minister. They are saying next week, Thursday, and you, Alderman J.P. Smith, and you, General, next week, Thursday, the 22nd, they are commanding you to clean your diaries for the bigger meeting at the castle. You will be meeting 1,000 religious leaders. That's an order. I'm the president. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bishop Templeton. We're going to give over to the first Deputy President of the MJC, Abdul Khalik Ali, who will be closing the program for us. Thank you very much.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I would like to close to pray for all the men and women that serves our community. These gentlemen, be they South African police servicemen or city officials, they are also family members. They are men and women that patrol our streets. The Muslim Judicial Council forms part of the SEP's chaplaincy. And the spiritual program that has been put together and we have attended, and our provincial commissioner, I'm extremely grateful for your presence, sir, as well as the national commissioner and the minister, as well as the mayor and Alderman J.P. Smith, as well as all the officials who have come out here. The bishops, the priests, faith leaders, civic society, our media, our leadership from the various faith communities. We thank you for coming out here, but we pray for the men and women that patrol our street. Their lives are also many a times placed in danger. We cannot go because we are one human being. We are one human body. That pain that Muhammad Razik has shared about his father and his family, or that we heard from the Bangladeshi brother, or from any of our community members, and Reverend Bia has spoken, it touches us all. As a collective, we pray for the well-being of our community and society. We pray for the protection of our people. We should not allow that our city and our community become known and tarnished as a criminal city, or tarnished as a place where there is lawlessness. Together, we will make our community a safer community. Together, we will stand up, and I'm grateful the minister has reiterated 2-3 times to say, I will report back and I will come back here. The mayor has committed himself to come back here. The mere fact, sir, that you have, committed yourself to be here today, that in itself speaks about your commitment. The mere fact that one of our members has said that the city and the province and national has sat together around the table here, the Muslim Judicial Council, we are just representatives of our community. We have just brought the community together because the community's voice must be heard. But we will continue to lead, because that is what we have been placed by the Almighty Allah as a trust to lead and to provide guidance to our community. In conclusion, I would like to thank you all, and we pray for the victims. You know, this particular Bangladeshi person here, it was so painful. We have had a number of meetings with the foreign communities. We have a special forum here at the Muslim Judicial Council, foreign leadership, the foreign Muslim leadership, because so that we can speak to them and we constantly address them on their concerns, and for them to be compliant to the laws and regulations of our community and society. We pray that Almighty Allah must bless this gathering. I'm grateful for the NPA for being present here today as well, and for them coming out here, for the city, for the SEPs, for the minister for making yourself available here. And we hope and pray that good will flow from here, inshallah. Thanks a lot.